Hello, my name is Sierra Stowe, and today we will be talking about the case of Dury and his treatment, and a theory that I believe goes along with the case, ethical concerns, and some cultural concerns. I do want to forewarn you, I'm not looking at a piece of paper, I just have different notes all around me with different things I just have to glance at to essentially keep my train of thought going. So, in to begin, I do want to just refresh the case of Dury. He is a 19-year-old Korean male who is single. He recently got into an altercation with his roommates over a female. I believe it sounds like he's a freshman or early sophomore in college. They ended up moving him to a different living situation, but he also needed to have stitches across his forehead because how traumatic the experience was. Um, Dury's parents, who have been married for years, have also relayed to him that they are getting a divorce. The divorce seems as though it has been a long time coming from his parents' end. And this has really been upsetting Dury because even though they've been living in separate rooms in the household, he still feels as though they should still continue that because that's fine in his aspect. He is also worried about his younger brother, who is 14 and suffers from autism spectrum disorder. Since he has found out about his parents' relationship ending, he has been upset and has lost a lot of interest in things that he usually take interest in, such as playing the violin, and going to work has become something that he no longer wants to do. He no longer wants to go to work, but he has to because he has to provide for himself because he knows that his dad will no longer provide for him if his dad only provides certain things for him. Since the attack, Dury has suffered from episodes where he is essentially having a panic attack. He has gone to the ER multiple occasions, but since there's nothing physically wrong with him, there's nothing that they can do. To also add, he is also afraid of driving because he feels as though he's going to have an episode where he's driving to his either to his job or to a date or just around town. But he has to drive because he has to go to work. This is also interesting to note that he asked a young lady out on a date, which was shocking to me because I didn't think that he would do that. But he ended up not going on the date because he had an episode, and once the episode resided, he tried to call the young lady and explain what happened, but it essentially did not work out in his favor because she ghosted him. To begin, to a theory that I would apply to this case to help Dury's instance would be cognitive behavioral therapy. As we all know, cognitive behavioral therapy is a theory that goes across the board. It covers a lot of different things such as PTSD, depression, some schizophrenia, anxiety, irrational beliefs, different things that we all see here every day, OCD. But in relation to Dury, I have to just go back and double check that I'm checking off all the boxes. In comparison to Dury's instance, CBT says the roots of a lot of these issues is because that there is a bias. An event has occurred which has caused a bias into how that person interprets situations and new information. And in this instance, the new information is his parents passing and his roommates attacking him. Just to jump to the roommates attacking him, he doesn't know, that's a traumatic experience overall. Like, someone jumping you is traumatic, especially if you had to go to the hospital. And then your parents are divorcing. So these are two things that are on separate sides of a scale, but they qualify as traumatic. And now he has a bias in his mind that nothing is okay. That his life is essentially forever changed. His parents' household is forever changed. And He just he has to get used to a new normal. He's experiencing because of the divorce, and which leads me into some of the diagnosis that I believe that he is suffering from. One diagnosis that I would say is, which is kind of screaming at me, is depression. It is a persistent sadness. It seems as though it has lasted for 2 weeks since the news of his parents. He has lost interest in his other activities that he liked, such as playing the violin, and he wants to quit his job. He's having trouble focusing in class. He is having trouble focusing in class. He also has trouble sleeping at night. He's taking melatonin, but the melatonin only worked so much, as we all know. And he's having these feelings of, oh my gosh, something's happening, but I also don't want to do anything at all. And after the episodes reside, he goes back to sleep, and the day just repeats again. Second, the diagnosis that I would say that he has is PTSD. PTSD comes in many forms. It's not always the gunshots that a Marine hears at night, or, a knock on the door resembles a bomb going off. In this instance, Dury is suffering from an acute stress, and the stress in this situation is the event of his roommates attacking him. And it can explain the heart palpitations and the chest pains. And although the exposure is not there, the thought still is. So essentially, what I'm saying is, although he is not continuously exposed to, someone trying to fight him, he still has that thought of, oh my gosh, what if someone is trying to fight me? Or, oh my gosh, what if someone's coming back? Also, although I am saying these are all assumptions, but he could still be having these thoughts because although they moved him to a new room, he could suffer from, what if the same thing happens to my new roommates, even though it was over a girl? So he's having this acute stress PTSD with the heart palpitations, the chest pains, the can't breathe, and having to go to the ER, but the EKG is coming back normal. So he's just like, I need help, but can't nobody physically help me because there is nothing physically wrong with me. And that's what PTSD is. It's not a physical issue, it's more of a mental issue. And lastly, I will say anxiety. He has a form of anxiety because he is because he will not drive because he is afraid that he will have an episode while he's driving. Sorry about that. He is afraid that he will have an episode while driving. The anxiety is also stemming from, he's worried about his brother who has autism. He's worried about the care for his brother. He is worried about how his life is going to be now that his parents are divorcing. And, which also can go into these chest pains and these feelings of a chest tightening and can't breathe. And I salute Dory because he tried to go on a date with the young lady, but he wasn't able to because he had an episode where he did eventually have to cancel because the anxiety attack just came on too long. He is essentially anxious about his new way of life because he can't control it and he doesn't know what's going to happen. The two people that he really thought would always be solid and stagnant in his life have made a complete shift in his life. And by those two people, I do mean his parents. Three techniques that I would use. One of them would be the empty chair or role play. This empty chair or role play scenario would help because it would give Dury a chance to speak to his parents in a way that he's not essentially able to. I am not familiar with Korean culture at all, and I'm not going to say that I am, but the little that I do know about Korean culture, it is not easy to speak to your parents about things that bother you. So in this situation, and you also have minimal control over what happens at home. In this situation, I would actually give him the power. Hey, do you want to role play as your parents so we could kind of talk about this? Or, I'm going to put a chair here and I'm going to let you talk to your parents about what you essentially want to say. Um, and hopefully this will help him work through, handling that divorce more effectively. Secondly, I would say with a part of CBT, which would be cognitive processing therapy. With this, I would specifically handle the traumatic event that happened with his roommates. I would, as hard as it sounds, I would want him to walk me through what happened. And as psychologists, we know we've seen this happen. Once you are able to talk about it, it gets a little easier each day. So if once he's able to talk about this with me, we can talk about it. We can walk through it. We can break it down into smaller parts as to what happened, whether it is his fault or whether it's not his fault. This will help him cope with it and be able to have these thoughts without having these other panic attacks that are followed by it. And they will just be thoughts instead of thoughts that have behaviors and actions followed behind them. Lastly, I would say we would set some SMART goals to handle his depression. The SMART goals would essentially be, let's try to do something that you like to do. He likes to play the violin, so the SMART goal would be, let's go get a violin. Or no, I'm sorry. By the end of a certain time frame, I want you to have come up with a song, a melody, or something. It doesn't have to be within a week or 2 weeks. You can do it bit by bit as much as you want to. But the goal would be essentially to get him back into doing the things that he likes. In regards to a cultural concern, I would say that I have also had roommate issues in the past. This is where I would have a bias because with my roommate issues, I have now come to realize I live better alone. And I would want to advocate, well, maybe living alone is better for you anyway. But he is still a teenager. He probably wants to experience living with roommates. So I would have to put that thought in the back of my mind instead of the front mind because, he's still a kid. He wants to live life. Maybe he wants to have that apartment with 4 other young gentlemen and having fun. Secondly, I was a behavioral therapist previously. So another thought that would be in my mind, another bias that I would have is, how is the brother? How is he doing? Is he getting his treatment? And if he starts to tell me that his parents are neglecting the treatment, then could potentially have a bias against his parents because even though you're going through a divorce, why are you neglecting treatment for your child? Even with autism. But at the same time, I don't know how severe it is. His brother is not the one that's in therapy with us. We are here to help Dury handle things in life. Some of the ethical concerns that I came up with that I thought of that were crucial are, let's go, Section 2.1, Boundaries of Competence. Lost my video. Boundaries of competence. With that being said, I would specifically want to notarize Section A and C. Section A states psychologists provide services, teach, and conduct research within populations and in areas only within the boundaries of their competence. And C states psychologists planning to provide services, teach, or conduct research involving populations, areas, techniques, or technologies new to them, undertake relevant education, training, and supervised experience, consultation, or study. I say this because he is from a Korean culture, and this is something that I am also not familiar with. I would want to fully understand what I am dealing with and where he's coming from and his perspective. I would not provide any services that I do not know. I would not tell him, well, just go tell your parents about, themselves, because that's not how it is. That my boundary of competence is, I can help you with your anxiety, your depression, and your PTSD. But once it comes to other things, say he's having issues with his girlfriend, or he gets a girlfriend, he has issues with his girlfriend, and he wants couples counseling. I do not specialize in that, so I cannot help that. So I would stick within my boundary of competence and what I know related to his culture, which also wants me to refer to Section 4.06. I'm so sorry. I am a Babler. 4.06, which talks about consultations. When consulting with colleagues, psychologists do not disclose confidential information that could reasonably lead to the identification of a client or a patient. I can see myself having to consult with colleagues about jury because of just cultural issues that I could see coming up and how I would want to address things. But with that being said, with that consultation, I don't want to use his first name or his last name. I would have to find an initial or another identifier to identify him that only I know. And it says that is okay ethically to use that information. And as long as you're not directly identifying your client. And essentially, that is my case conceptualization of Dury. Just to end it off, I have thoroughly enjoyed this class. I have learned so much about myself, about psychology, and about the theories. I have thoroughly enjoyed my residency, and this was a great experience for me, especially to see me face to face.